Hey guys! I'm not sure if you remember this layout I did. I think it was a Kelly Stamps design team layout, which was sort of like a day in the life of Lil. And when I did that, Michelle had mentioned that it might have been a better idea to do it on International Dog Day, which from my recollection, don't quote me on this, I'm sure it was like August 26th or something like that. So I did actually take a whole bunch of photos. First, I just want to show you this. I like made myself a little, I mean it's hardly a cover, it's just like laminated paper, but this is all part of my expand my notebook shelves up here. So I have made a couple of these just out of some pink paisley papers, so all my little notebooks are in covers again. Anyway, my point is, I did actually take a bunch of photos of Lil on International Dog Day, a little day in the life of Lil. I'll be honest, her days are probably quite boring, so there's not like heaps of photos in here, but I've got enough that I think I'm gonna make a little mini album, a little day in the life of Lil mini album, which will be nice to have, you know, in future, a little recollection of her life. So I had one of these, We Are Memory Keepers 4x4 albums laying around, just a plain black one, and I had a bunch of page protectors for it as well. I don't know if I've got enough. I think I probably do. And I've probably got more hanging about anyway, but if not, I'll just put some loose pages in there. This is currently what do you call them, acrylic thing. I don't even know who that's from. It might be Studio Calico. It just happened to be in the album when I opened it up, so I decided I might as well use it. It looks kind of cool in there, so I've got that. And I've sort of put together a little mini kit of stuff to work with. It's just, I find it so much easier to limit my supplies when I'm working on something like this rather than the overwhelming choice of everything that's in my room. So obviously when I'm going through this album, if I need something else, I will go and get it, but I'm going to predominantly try and work through this. I've got a little sequin mix that I think I made for Brandy Kincaid and Feed Your Crafts Christmas kit last year. I still got a whole baggie of this, so got a little jar of that. I went through my wood veneer and pulled out a bunch of old wood veneer. There were some little dog ones, I think were from Studio Calico. I've got some Ellie Studios acrylic hearts. There's some arrows and banners and words. There's a little rubber word. You've got this. A couple of paper clips. You know, like just a bunch of random stuff, which would be nice to use up, given that October has sort of unofficially become my use stuff month. And then I grabbed a bunch of other stuff in here. I've only pulled out one paper pad. I really like this Color Fresh one. It's sort of bright and colourful and graphic. Lots of my photos are kind of, well, they were terrible photos, so they're black and white, or, I mean, Lil's a black and white dog, so there's not a lot of colour in here. I figured a bit of colour might be nice, so I've got the Color Fresh pad. I haven't got any other paper pads. Like I said, if I need to, I will. The sequin mix goes kind of nicely with this paper pad, so that will be fine. And then I just went through where to even start. Let me just pull all this out. I'll just go through. I've just shoved it all in my box here. I went through my box of embellishments, my box of alphas, some of my stamps, and pulled out a whole heap of things. So I've got my honeybee glitter enamel dots. I've got these twine and ink ones because I thought the neons went quite nicely with that Color Fresh pad. This is some old chipboard from Studio Calico. Again, I thought the pink was nice and I like the bit of shiny sort of copper metallic. These are half a sheet of Pink Fresh Studio puffy stickers, little drawn on stars. I've had them forever. I've barely used them. It's time to get rid of some of them. Again, those sort of brighter colours go, well, that's my sort of theme, I guess. Bright colours to go with my less bright photos. I had this sheet that's got 3 gold chipboard stars on it. They've got to go. Some tiny words from Citrus Twist. Those are chipboard ones. These are just a bunch of just card, tiny words. These are from Pretty Little Studio. Some old Studio Calico, well there's 7 paper ones, some from A Beautiful Mess. And these were 7 paper. They're actually like dog themed ones, so that seemed appropriate. I got the Colour Fresh ephemera pack, whatever's left in there, I can hopefully use some of that. I got some stamps in here. These are Love from Feed Your Craft, Moments Focused from In a Creative Bubble and Feed Your Craft. This one here, the Good Dog set from Kelly Stamps. I pulled this one out for these Best Friends stamps here. I thought that would work for me and Lil. And this one here is the LOL stamp set from Kelly Stamps as well. So just a few. Like I said, if I need more I can go and grab some. Alphas, a little bit of gold puffy stickers. These have no branding, so I have no idea what they are. There are 2 E's left on here, so it's semi-useful. Some more puffy stickers from Citrus Twist. These have got E's as well, that's why I've kept them. And the teal will work nicely with all that bright colours. I've got some cork numbers. I think they were from a Studio Calico kit. I might end up using those. Some little tiny letter stickers from Citrus Twist. There's not much in the way of like vowels left on here, but I'll see what I can do, and then they're probably going to hit the bin. More puffy stickers from Feed Your Craft. Like this is a big mini album for a small amount of photos, so I'm not worried at all in the least about bulk in this album. In fact, I want to make it as chunky as possible. So it's all puffy stickers, and I've got these gold Pinkfresh Studio wood veneer ones. They're really huge. I'm happy to put bulky stuff in here. More LE Studios Jane Alpha stickers. There's a few E's left on here, but I think these white stickers always look really good directly on the photos. Oops, there's a couple more stamps in here. These were some sort of background stamps from Echo Park. I thought I could make my own pattern paper if, you know, I run out of or need something different from the Colour Fresh one. And dug through my stash and grabbed a couple of embossing folders too. I thought they would make nice sort of intermediary pages or something, so just a bit of something to add a bit of texture in there. So that's my, I mean it's not so mini kit, but that's the kit of stuff that I'm going to work through. I highly doubt I'm going to get this album all done in one sitting, but when I remember I will flick the camera on and show you my process. So I wasn't entirely sure where I was actually going to start, and after going through the entire album, which I have put my photos into, I decided just to start at the start and work my way through it, chronologically I guess, but from start to finish. This first page is the first thing I see in the morning, these two just waiting for me to get up and give them breakfast. And I think I'm going to end up moving that currently piece. I'm sort of, I wasn't sure where to put it. I had just pulled it out and put it in the sort of kit that I had, but in the end I don't think that that's going to work on the front page there. So I'll take it off and I'll use it somewhere else. I'm using my Brilliance Moonlight White to stamp one of their sentiments. There's a whole bunch of Kelly stamps. Like I said, all of this stuff is from my stash, so probably reasonably unlinkable for you. If there is anything still in stock, I will put the links in the description for you. I'm stamped it just sort of along the bottom, a little bit up from the top, and then I tried my regular scissors but ended up having to grab my Tim Holtz ones to trim off the bottom of that wood veneer. So that's where I decide my currently isn't going to work, but there is that kind of space at the top of the photo, which was why I had kind of placed it there in the first place. I thought I might be able to
to like fill up the space with that currently piece. So I want to fill it up with something else. There was, it says Day in My Life, the little chipboard piece from Citrus Twist. So I wanted to use that because effectively this is going to be the title page. This is actually the first photo, but it's going to be the title page as well. I figured Lily's album didn't necessarily need a whole title page for itself, so I'm going to use this blank space and put the title in here. So these little puffy stickers, I had enough alphas to spell out Lily, so I've got Lily, Day in My Life, and then I guess the stamps and stuff at the bottom kind of refer to the photo, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. I had stuck the chipboard and the word stickers on the like a plastic acetate sheet just to place them, but it stuck good on there, so I did end up having to trim a little bit off it and stick that onto the photo with just some tape runner. And I grabbed out these enamel dots. I've never seen enamel dots like glued onto the backing card before. It was a real pain actually. And these are going to be sort of a theme throughout the album. So I'm adding a few, 3 here, all different colors onto there. I did add the little acetate heart to the ring, the book ring instead, which I quite like, and I tried to use the little red one because I thought that pink doesn't quite go with the enamel dots, but the other little red one didn't actually fit on the ring, so that one is going to do. And then I went through my stash and found a couple of little tassels, because I do like the idea of having something sort of jingly, especially because that's the front, that's the first page of the album. Between when I put this album together and now when I'm actually working on the album, I ended up buying some more of these little 4x4 page protectors. I didn't have enough, or I didn't have the number that I wanted of the large full page ones, so I did buy some more. So I'm going to add a couple more in as I go and feel like I need to or want to swap things around, which I did. I swapped the photo onto the other side so that I could add a little card on here, and I remembered that I had this like puppy dog paw print punch thing, so I punched 3 along the bottom, and I'll probably end up doing my journaling on this card, I imagine. I haven't really thought about journaling too much at this point. I'll add that in somewhere later on. I've popped that paperclip onto those 2 pages. They are quite bulky with the wood veneer right at the bottom of that other page. The paperclip probably won't stay there, but for now it's just holding everything in place so that the pages don't actually just pop out of the page protectors. Now this one I'm keeping super simple. I've just stamped Best Friends from another Kelly stamp set, and I've added one of those chipboardy hearts. Again, I think they're super old, from a Studio Calico kit. And because it's so simple, I wanted to do something a little bit fun, so I went through my trims and I pulled out some little pink pom-pom trim, and I'm just going to hand stitch that onto the page protector. It's kind of the easiest way to get it really close to the edge. Like, the page protectors do have a little bit of room in them, so if you are really careful with where you're stitching, you can stitch that onto the side of the page protector and your photo will still actually go into it. So I'm pulling out some paper for the next, well, almost 2 sort of pages. I need a paper for the front and a paper for the back. So there's nothing on the front, but I really loved these little tigers. These are photos of Lily like being a guard dogging. And so I thought the tigers sort of made sense because, you know, they kind of have the same position as her. Even though she's guard dogging, she's sitting on her blanket on a couch. So it's probably about as close to being a guard dog as she gets. All I want to do is spell out guard dog with these puffy alphas, and I chose these alphas because they're really the most complete set that I figured I'd be able to spell it out with, but that pattern is super busy. I didn't think it would stand out particularly well on there, so I just added a few little strips of washi tape as kind of a background, and it works. It kind of makes a bit more of a title. It stands out a little bit more. And I decided to add in, rather than leaving those two squares of this page protector clear, because there's already a clear element behind that. So I decided to fill those in with the same paper, which kind of ties the whole thing together as a spread. And then I'm going to use another pattern paper on the back. It's just one that's going to coordinate sort of with the filler page that's behind there, that little sequiny page. It was the most circular paper that I could find in that pad, so it kind of works. It's got the little circles on there. They're kind of starbursts, but they're still circular shaped. I don't tend to do this a lot in like my Project Life albums or anything like that, but when I get a little mini album like this, I am being careful to line up the things that are back to back in pockets, glue them together so they're not going to shuffle around, and then I am just trimming off any excess just to make it look a little bit neater. It's a really small album, so I kind of want to make sure I get everything as tidy as I can. Now, I was being really trying to be really careful. I've got a bag of glue dots there, and they're not my favorite. Well, I like the glue dots, but I don't like having them all in a separate little bag with separate little plastic pieces. They're kind of a pain in the bum. So you can't see that because I'm being real careful not to knock them off the desk. But that's what I'm sticking these little sequins down with. I just placed a few of them. That's the sequin mix that I used for that shaker pocket. There was heaps left, so I chucked it in a container, and I figured I would use it throughout the album too. So I've just used my tweezers to pick out a few little sequins to kind of scatter across the page, and that'll kind of tie these two pages together. They're both sort of filler pages, but it works. For those tiny, tiny little sequins, all I did was cut that glue dot into quarters, and it still worked fine. So I haven't done that before, but that's what I did, and it worked okay. So I will do that again in the future. The glue dots I have got are quite big ones. I was sent them as part of my pink paisley design team, so I've never really used glue dots apart from this. I used the glue dots to stick down that, it's not acetate, it's one of those sort of rubbery pieces. I have literally no idea whether that will work or not. I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with those rubber pieces kind of melting adhesives, so whether it melts the glue dots or not remains to be seen. I'm hoping not. If it does, I will just kind of stitch it onto the page probably. Now this one here, I'm kind of working back to back. I want to put all those little wood veneer pieces onto the photo of Lil on the grass, but I had already glued those two photos back to back, so I made sure I stamped on the other photo first. That would have been incredibly awkward to try and stamp on there. That was just another Kelly stamp, a food one. I've only got one dog related stamp set, and so the rest of them I pulled out were just kind of related to Lily, like friends and food and that kind of thing. And I went through my stash here and found some little wood veneer arrows. I had pulled a couple out for my kit as such, but for what I decided to do for the page, which was to add these little arrows everywhere, they were kind of too big. So I went back through my wood veneer stash and found some smaller ones, and I'm just kind of adding them all over. This is the second part of her guard duty, I guess, which is to, you know, check the yard, got to inspect the yard for cats and stuff. So that's that page there, and I'm just shaking the sequence around. And then I'm going to go back to this kind of treaty page. She's eating the treats. I had trimmed down that tag piece in there and put it in there, but I actually didn't like it. It didn't go with the colours that I've chosen in the end, so I'm going back to my pattern paper. And I just want to pick out something plainer. What I'm planning on doing is a sequin page, so I want something that's going to make those sequins stand out and not try to sort of overwhelm it. I backed it with a second paper, and I'm just trimming it down so this one is exactly the same size as a page protector, and I'm going to like heavily glue these back to back so they don't come apart, and then just use the page protectors to punch those holes in the right place. Now I'm going to end up stitching this photo into the page protector, so I need to make sure that everything is finished on it. So I'm going to back it with just a little bit of pattern paper and trim that down so it's all nice and neat. And I I wanted to add something to it because otherwise it's going to be two plain pages. So I'm going to add just one tiny little sentiment stamp on the back of there. The photos are about Lily eating treats, so the food stamp worked nicely. What I did is washi taped that photo into the middle on the outside of the page protector, and then I stitched around 3 sides to create the little pocket. Then I slipped the photo in and then stitched the top shut. So the photo is well and truly stuck into there. And then all I'm doing is carefully adding some sequins all the way around the 3 sides before I stitch the top shut. Putting those sequins in is a little bit of a pain, especially trying to get them to fall under the bottom, but I really love how that works out. Now I'm going to maybe put the currently piece here. I'm not sure how I'm going to attach it just yet, but it kind of works. I want to put a little stamp because it says out for a walk, which is what we're doing, and I think the currently sits really nicely above it. So I'm going to try and glue dot that one on too because I wasn't sure how to put it on. If I had not have already stuck those 2 bits of card together, I could have stitched it on, just hand stitched around a few of the letters, but I didn't want to poke holes through the other side, so glue dots it is. Let's all cross our fingers that that stays together. So I wasn't really sure like what else to do with this page. It's kind of a busy photo for me, and there weren't any, like normally I'm looking for sort of the white space in a photo to add embellishments, and this one kind of didn't really have any. So I'm just adding some stickers, and I'll be honest, I don't love how that looks, but with these photos, like the advantage with printing at home photos, you can stamp on them. The disadvantage is when you stick a sticker down, it's down for good. So I decided just to add those 3 stickers and just walk away, try and find something else and maybe go back to that in the end. This page here is Lily doing tricks. That's how she gets treats. She has to do tricks. And so I really loved this paper for it. It's a bit brighter than what I've used everywhere else in the album, but it's all like, yeah, wow, which I think works well for the treat page. So I've trimmed out a 4x4 piece, and then I did the same thing. I used the offcuts there to create the little 2x2 pockets. And really when it came to alphas, I only had the one choice for the white ones, so they're the only ones that were going to stick out on here, and they do stick out really well. I love them. So it's going to say you have to do tricks because that's her signal. She knows that if she wants the treaty, that she's going to have to do the tricks. She knows exactly what I mean. Often she doesn't even let me tell her which trick to do. She just starts the routine and does her little spins and rollovers and begs, just in the hopes that I might feel bad and give her the treats immediately. I was pretty lucky. I did have a vague look at the alpha sheet before I started to make sure I had enough of the right letters to do this. So I only had to have the 1 E, and there was still a couple more E's on there, I think. So it all worked out. The way I spaced it, I don't know why I spaced it like that. I spaced it kind of weirdly, and now I've got this big kind of hole sitting here. So I'm gonna fill it up with a couple more of these chipboard hearts. I've only used them once in the album, and I'm trying to keep things a little bit consistent. So I'm just going to add these ones in here. The pink ones are not quite the right sort of pink to stand out on that page, so I use those little coppery ones, and they're so pretty. Love them. Desperate to use that llama paper. It doesn't really make sense. Flill, she's definitely not got any sort of characteristics of a llama, so I decided to go for a more plainer one, and I just trimmed that into 4x4 first just to make sure I liked it with the page. Was trying to find something in the pattern paper that had a pink and a teal, because those are the 2 sort of colors in the photo, and this was as close as it got. So it does look okay. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I trimmed those into the 2x2 squares and popped them into the page protector, and I'm just going to keep this one simple. Really all I've got is this little wood veneer, what's a camera, but it's an Instagram logo, wasn't it? Well, the old Instagram logo anyway. So I was going to stick that onto the page protector, and then I thought I'll just back it with a little bit of pattern paper, and that gives me that third sort of color on there. So just really simply stuck that on, trimmed it out, and I'm just adding tape runner to stick that onto the page protector, and again, hopefully that will work. I'm going to do another sequin page here, and I'm just trying to be a little bit selective with the sequins. There's stars in this mix, and I don't really want the stars in here. I just kind of want the little circular sequins. I already put in 4 little wood veneer dogs into each of the 2x2 pockets, and I'm desperately trying to sprinkle just a few sequins into each pocket, but whew, they fought me. I think the pockets are already a little bit bulky because of those dogs, and so trying to put the little sequins in, they just went everywhere. So I like how that turned out. I was really quick over to the sewing machine to stitch all of that shut, so I stitched the 2 open edges, and then I just added a little bit more stitching around the edge and through the middle just to kind of make it look purposeful. Now it's at this point that I realized I haven't even really opened the Heidi Swap die cut sort of ephemera pieces that I had pulled out into that kit. So I did go through it really quickly and pull out a few little pieces. I will end up going back through the album probably more than once and pull out a few more pieces, but some of these are going to be perfect for journaling on. This little one I thought was a cute little quote, so I just stitched it onto the 2x2 card. This one I think is going to make a really good journaling spot, so I'm just lightly gluing it on for now because I'm not sure how I'm going to do my journaling for there. And I'll pulled out a few more pieces. I'll continue looking through there and pull out a few more, I'm sure, but I'm just going to carry on. I want to get through the rest of this album. So I figured this blank 4x4 spot's going to be a good place to do some journaling. So I added a 4x4 paper. It's lime green, I know. Lime green's sort of grid pattern. And I added the little wood veneer that says The Story. So I think that'll make a good journaling spot for whatever story I happen to tell on here. This is just me going through the rest of that ephemera pack, pulling out things I think I might use. I mean, obviously there's some in here that I'm definitely not going to use, but I just pulled out a little pile to work from, and I don't use all of that pile at all. I want to use this babe one. This is a photo of Lil right before we go to bed, and I thought I would stick it onto the photo. I desperately tried to see whether the acetate had a covering on it. They often do, and I could not feel a covering anywhere, so I figured, oh, maybe the ones in these packs don't. I'm going to use my Xyron to stick that down, and so I peel off the Xyron, I peel off my acetate, and what? Why is there no stick on here? That's because the acetate does have a backing on it, and that's now covered in Xyron, so I had to run that through twice so that I could stick that down. And just to make it a little bit more readable, I did add a couple of bits of washi tape underneath there. It's still a patterned washi tape, but it is easier to see than the rest of the page. And that's where I stopped because I had some visitors. So I'll probably pick this up tomorrow morning and show you how I finish it up.
Okay, so I got disturbed a couple of times. I had both sets of parents visit yesterday, so I basically stopped filming. I got most of it done, but stopped filming, and then I got up this morning and just finished off the last little bits and pieces in this album. And actually it's turned out like pretty chunky. I thought there was going to be heaps of room in here for maybe adding some more photos or something later on, but probably won't be. I just filled in the little book plate with some pattern paper and added Lily's name and a little heart. The great thing about having that kit that I got out there was that I was trying to, and I'm just going to put this back here so that the camera stops going ballistic. The good thing with having the kit is that I was able to make the whole thing quite consistent. So there's lots of things I've used throughout it, like these little enamel dots, apart from the stamps and the colours and the paper and whatnot. So the whole thing looks I'm really pleased with it. I'm really pleased with how it looks. I'll be honest, like I was quite intimidated to start this project, which is why I put the kit together and then did nothing for so long. I don't obviously work in huge projects like this very often. December Daily is probably the biggest one, but again, I'm only doing that day by day rather than sitting down and trying to finish a whole album. So I'm pleased with how this turned out, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, and I wish I had started sooner. So this was the first page, and you saw me put all this together. All I did was remove that paper clip in the end and stitch the top shut so that this quite bulky piece with the wood veneer down here isn't going to pop up. I also glued the heart onto the page protector because it kept sort of flopping about. The two little tassels are still just sitting there free and easy because I like having something a little bit dangly in there, but this one I want to sit on this page like that. It does make turning it a little bit difficult, but I've ended up just handwriting my journaling in here because it was easier and I'd already had everything sort of stuck down. I didn't want to pull it all off to typewrite it. So I added this little sort of book platey kind of note piece with just a couple of the other ephemera bits in behind there, and again with the enamel darts just to tie these two sides together a little bit. And you saw me stitching, hand stitching these trims on. Definitely the easiest way to do it. You can probably get a special foot for your sewing machine, but whenever I put these sort of pom-pom, smaller pom-pom trims anyway, I either hand stitch them or I use a little bit of red line tape, which seems to do the trick quite nicely too. This was a simple page, but I love the little tiger. That's what she sort of looks like. She's always on guard, up high wherever she can to make sure that she can see outside. She's normally watching the kids come to and from school. This was one of the pages I had already done before I started filming. It was just an idea I was playing with, a little shaker pocket. So I trimmed down a piece of card. This is actually a stamped piece that I did with a Eco Park stamp, I think. And I trimmed it down to 4x4 and then added 2 pieces of page protector in there. And then stitched around the circle, like trapping the sequins in there, and I really like it. But I had made it too small and then I had no way to put it into the album, so I had to use these metal dies to die cut these little tabs and stitch those on as well to create the whatever you call it. I can't think of the word, it's very early, I'm sorry, but to create the mechanism to put them into the album. And the reality is, this is my preference. I wish this was a full page, sort of full page sheet rather than with these little things, because they're totally different to the rest of the album. And if I had any inclination, I would probably go back and redo this, but I think it's just going to stay as it is. This is a fun page too, really simple. Again, because of this bulky wood veneer, I did end up stitching the page shut. I added, there were 2 little tabs in that Heidi swap pack, so I added those with, these were 7 paper, I think, little dog, tiny word stickers. They're not, yeah, I mean, they're not the best sort of sentiments. They're not really anything I would ever say about Lil, but I put a couple up here just because they seemed the most appropriate ones. And Bon Appetit, I do love a good pun. So again, that's just stitched, and it stitches those, they are glued, but it stitches those little cardboard tabs in place too. This was the little shaker page that I made, and I was going to leave the page behind it plain, because that's the sentiment there, but when you opened it up, it was just kind of a bit dull having just this plain yellow page, so I did add a tag and a little acetate sentiment, which I used the Xyron for, and when that's open, it just kind of adds to the busyness of it, so I'm not too concerned that it wasn't plain underneath it anymore. I ended up moving that currently over to here, and I've stuck that down with glue dots, and I'm hoping that will stick. I haven't really got a lot of experience with sticking down these sort of bulky acetate pieces, so fingers crossed that works. But otherwise, all I added to this page was a few more little enamel darts, again to kind of tie in the colours. I've got the yellow and the pink over here just to tie them sort of together, but also tie this page into the rest of the album. This was a fun little page. Or I did go back and stick these 2x2 pieces together and trim off the excess, and I added a couple of enamel dots over here, and they're actually on the outside of the page protector, so I've never had any issues with those sorts of things coming off, but it just would have made this little page too bulky. Because this is pretty simple one, pretty simple page, this one, I did add another piece of trim onto here, again just hand stitched it, and I added a tiny piece of a tag with a couple of enamel dots and just some letter stickers. And actually the journaling for this page is on the back, which doesn't concern me that it's not with the photo, because there isn't actually a photo on this page. This is kind of another sort of filler page. I stitched those little pockets shut because wow, a pain they were to get the sequins in there. They were bouncing out all over the place, but I've been hoarding these dogwood veneers for like literally years, so I'm happy to have that in there. This one I kept real simple too. I added some alpha stickers. These ones are from Feed Your Craft down here. I managed to get specialty in, and because that's what Lily calls her favourite dinner. Well, that's what I call Lily's favourite dinner. And then I kind of had this odd space here, and it did take me quite a while to work out what word I could fit in there so that I had a full column of letters, because I had stamped this delicious stamp, which is still one of my favourite stamps, in the Moonlight White ink, and I wanted to have that sort of column look down the side there. So it took me a while. I did have to shuffle some letters around, but they all fit in there nicely in the end. Again, I hand wrote the story about the specialty on the back, but I sort of added a bit more about the whole evening routine, so it kind of starts from here and then it ties into these three stories, photos, sorry, in the end anyway. So with this one I just added some pattern paper because I didn't have any more photos, but I left these pockets blank. I like that you can see through onto the other side, although now that I look at it I do kind of wonder if maybe these should be like the other way around so you can see her face. Yeah, let's do that. Always helps to go through an album a second time, doesn't it? Second, third, fourth time. I have gone through here several times, but that makes more sense to me. I'm going to leave the enamel dots where they are because I think that's quite cute, having them on the see-through pocket part. No, I don't, because then you can see the back of them, and oh, I might have enough to cover them. Well, that's kind of helpful. I did get rid of a few more enamel dots too. So they're now on both sides, which ties into my last page, which was Time for Bed, Babe. And I didn't have any photo or any story for the end, so I just chucked in that llama paper because I really wanted to use it, and a little acetate piece, and that is my whole album done. Love how this turned out. It's such a fun project, and I wish I had a couple more of these little 4x4 albums, but this is my last one, so the last 4x4 album. Thanks for watching, guys, and let me know if you've got any questions, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye!